Only 1 month remains in the 2023 NFL regular season, and each game now matters more than the last. The first place Dallas Cowboys have a window of opportunity, but zero room for error. Where the Cowboys fit the bill as a true contender, or will Buffalo take a bow to their chances that are on the table? It's the Cowboys and the Bills meeting in Orchard Park for the first time since 2015. Welcome into Cowboys Pregame Live, presented by WinStar World Casino and Resorts. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans, soon to be joined by Nicole Hutchison and Nick Eatman, who is live out in Buffalo. We've got plenty to get through in this one. You talk about significant stats and significant storylines entering a matchup. This one's got a little bit of everything. And what is my opinion, the best game of the NFL slate in Week 15 across the board.
I like that. Okay.
Cowboys trying to keep their 5-game winning streak alive and keep pace as first place in the division of the NFC East, and try and keep pace in the NFC across the board. I mean, when you look at this game, Barry, what stands out most to you?
What stands out to me is so far this team, the Dallas Cowboys, has been consistent on both sides of the football. You're talking about offensively and defensively. If they can keep that momentum going throughout this tough stretch, man, the sky's the limit in my opinion.
The sky's the limit, but you're talking about the NFC East #1 seed versus the AFC East #2 seed in that of Buffalo. And these are both playoff-bound teams. Both of these guys got dogs on each side of the ball. The third as well in terms of the special teams. Well-coached teams. This is going to come down to who makes the least amount of mistakes. Hopefully it's Dallas Cowboys.
You're talking about a dog. I'm talking about Josh Allen, a guy like to run the ball, got a cannon arm. And you talk about Dak MVP-type numbers. This is going to be a super game.
Yeah, this season hasn't necessarily gone to plan the way that the Buffalo Bills wanted it to go. A team that's perennial contenders in the AFC and still might be from a talent standpoint, but they are 7-6. They are dealing with some injuries, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But it has gone to plan recently for the Dallas Cowboys. Look at this number across the board. Most wins by a team by 20 points or more since the NFL merger. The Cowboys are only the 4th team to do it 8 times or more. The one thing that those 3 teams in front of them all have in common, they went to the Super Bowl. The 2007 Patriots, of course, they went undefeated up until the Super Bowl when they fell to the New York Giants. But the Rams and the Packers, they both got the job done from their standpoint of winning the Super Bowl. How much does this give you confidence on what the Cowboys can do this season?
It gives me great confidence because when you look at it, that means they're not playing down to the level of any team, whether that team's a contender or not. They're executing the game plan on both sides of the football at an extremely high rate. But to me, the most important stat from this team so far is they're winning the turnover battle. They're plus 10 out there this season, which means the offense is taking care of the football and the defense, they're taking it away.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing these guys and seeing how they respond to another playoff team out of the AFC. Obviously, they took care of business last week against the Philadelphia Eagles. This time they have the Buffalo Bills, who have their back up against the wall with playoff implications in place, and you're going to get the best version of them. You can please believe that.
They're running the ball nice. They are throwing the ball with great accuracy. Their defense is taken away, like Barry's saying, and that's the main important points.
No doubt about that. And Barry, you talked about winning the turnover battle. The Cowboys might be 10-3 overall. They are 10-1 when forcing a single takeaway. That's it, 10-1 whenever they've forced the takeaway. So they've had some success this year in forcing those turnovers. They're going up against the Bills team today that can give the football up quite a bit. We've talked about it throughout the week on DallasCowboys.com, but Josh Allen not only leads the NFL in touchdown passes, but he leads the NFL in turnovers. We'll talk a little bit more about Josh Allen in a moment, but the 6 losses from this Buffalo team have all been by single digits. Actually, all less than a touchdown, 6 points or less. Where does this Buffalo team rank in terms of the opponents Cowboys have seen so far?
I think they're right up there because even though they've lost that amount of games, by that much of a margin, they're extremely talented out there. When you talk about what they have at the receiving core, when you talk about what they have at the quarterback, yes, he turns the football over out there, but this guy is extremely talented, dual-threat quarterback, can make all the throws, and he can hurt you with your run. So you cannot sleep on Buffalo. This will be a great contest.
When you talk about the AFC, you can't talk about them without bringing up the Buffalo Bills, and that's just the reality. Regardless of the struggles that they're going through, much like the Seattle Seahawks and the NFC, okay, the Buffalo Bills have an absolute squad, offensively, quarterback, receiver, offensive line, tight ends, or defensively. Their defensive line is getting after their quarterback left and right, second level solid. Safeties are some of the best in the game. They're just missing their coach, Coach Frazier, and that's why their play has calmed down a little bit this year.
18.8 is what they're giving up on defense. Coach Sean McDermott, is I'm
Yes,
pronouncing
sir.
that right? He is the defensive coordinator. He takes care of business. This Bill team can be very, very dangerous. We don't play our cards right.
Yeah, and you got to play your cards right against Josh Allen. This is actually the third time since the NFL merger that the offensive touchdown leader, Josh Allen, 35 touchdowns this year, has met up against the offensive passing touchdown leader, and that's Dak Prescott with 28 touchdowns through the air. This is what Josh Allen's teams have done since 2020 based off of turnovers. So out of those 30 games that Josh Allen has at least one giveaway or only one giveaway, 21-9. Still winning games with just the one turnover. However, 17 games where he's had two or more, they get into the losing record. But then you talk about the zero up there at the top. 15-0 when he does take care of the rock. How imperative is it, Barry, and since you are our resident defender,
yes, sir.
I know you love forcing turnovers. How imperative is it for Dallas to keep that trend going?
Well, you see the numbers right there. It's extremely imperative for this defense to make sure they get after Josh Allen and take the football away. Look, Josh Allen's going to be one of the most talented players this defense is going to have to go against. But his gunslinger mentality, it gets him in trouble at times because he feels like there's not a throw out there that he cannot make. So defensively, I feel like the Dallas Cowboys have got to make sure they're on top of everything and remain patient because eventually Josh Allen will give you an opportunity to make a play.
He'll give you an opportunity if you force him into an opportunity, and that means that you have to go ahead and put the dancing shoes on Mr. Happy Feet himself. As long as you get pressure back there, the film shows that this dude will go off of his first read and look to try to find a running lane. Not necessarily the second option in the passing scheme. He wants to simply just tuck the ball and run. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to get back to him in the backfield. If not, he wants to throw that thing up there like Barry just said. He is a gunslinger. That's why he has 14 turnovers through the air.
I tell you what, they got a new offensive coordinator in Joe Brady, and he's been trying to slow it down with the run game. He's not telling him he can't pass, but look here, we're going to run a little bit more. Stop that run, heat him up, and them dancing feet will come.
Nate, do you have your dancing shoes on?
Oh, definitely, man.
Okay, let me ask you this. Based off of what you've seen, and you talked about Joe Brady and the impact he had, he was, of course, it really made his name in 2019 with the LSU Tigers, Joe Burrow, Justin Jefferson, and company. When you look at this Josh Allen at the quarterback position, where do you think he is today? Do you think you get the good Josh Allen or do you get the turnover-heavy Josh Allen?
I think the way they're trying to make this playoff run, I think we'll get that Josh Allen that is in the middle, that 21-9 Josh Allen. He may give us one, but if he does give it to us early, they're going to try to tamper him down a little bit. But if you know what, if we can get to him and get him to chirping, he'll give us them too.
Yeah, he's going to give you an opportunity, but the thing is, Josh Allen this year alone is 5-2 at the crib. Also, when he's at the crib, his passer rating goes up to 109.5 versus the 90 that he has in any of the other games. So this dude can definitely play at home. Buffalo is a heck of a place, especially when the weather's like it is today.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with both of y'all on this one. I feel like we're going to get that Josh Allen that we saw at the top with zero turnovers out there. Look, the guy's playing at home. He's done a lot better as far as taking care of the football. There's not that many multiple turnover games that he has out there today. So to me, I think this is going to be an offensive game. It might be a shootout, even with the inclement weather out there. I believe this will be a shootout, but you're going to get the best version of Josh Allen today.
And we'll talk a little bit more about the weather in a moment. I want to ask you a quick question. Based off of 7-6, a bit of desperation because Buffalo is in the outside looking in right now in terms of that AFC playoff picture. From a quarterback standpoint, how does that change your mentality? Because it may not be easy enough for Josh Allen to dink and dunk and just get it to his playmakers. He may have to force some throws.
Yeah, he may have to force some throws. And the thing is with Josh Allen, he is a gunslinger, right? So he's going to take his risk. Yeah. That's one thing that you know about him. He's going to throw the thing down the field, and he does so mainly, his turnovers usually come with two high safeties. Unfortunately, Dallas is the #1 team in the league in terms of not having two safeties up top. They always have one guy down. So he'll have his opportunities of one high safeties. He'll have his opportunities versus man-to-man coverage, and he has the receivers that can definitely go out there and have those mismatches as well.
He's one of the toughest players to game plan against in the NFL, no doubt about it, because you don't know which Josh Allen you're going to get from a week-to-week standpoint. Here's what Mike McCarthy said earlier this week when talking about game planning for not only Josh Allen, but the Bills as a whole.
I mean, he's a dynamic football player. I think, the way he plays the position, he reminds me of a young Brett Favre, just the temperament and the ability to throw the ball to any quadrant in the field. He's very aggressive running the ball. I mean, you have to treat him like, you have to treat him as a running back when he gets out there because, he's not looking to go down or go out of bounds and, those types of things. But very impactful football player.
And when you have a player like him who has such an upside and is willing to take some risks and has had a prolonged stretch of turnovers, do you try to feed into that early, or can you get off your game trying to too much to force.
No, I just think we got to play our game and stay focused on, what we do every time we line up, and when we have opportunities to take the ball away, we got to convert. But he's very, very aggressive player. It's good. It's definitely, it could be a 60 plus minute football game. And they're never out of it when he has the ball in his hand.
He certainly gives an opportunity for any opponent to make mistakes, but he can make some mistakes himself, and that's what Mike McCarthy and company are going to aim to cause here on the road in Buffalo. It's a December game in Buffalo. It could be much colder than it actually is. Let's go check in Orchard Park with Nick Eatman, who's down in the tunnel. It is raining, though, so that's the one change. Nick is down there right before kickoff.
Hey guys, and yeah, we had to move inside a little bit here for the tunnel. It's been raining here pregame. It's probably going to rain most of the day, and they got something the Cowboys are just going to have to be prepared for. But we didn't want to get our stuff wet here, so we had to make sure to do it here. But as just outside the Cowboys locker room, I got a chance to talk to some of the people that might be affected the most here about with the rain. I talked to some of the guys on the equipment staff, and really there's not a ton of changes. One of the big changes you're going to see is the skilled players switched from a synthetic glove to more of a leather glove here, just to get a little bit better traction with the ball. From the cleat standpoint, it's really the same. There's no changes there. Obviously, it's wet. You got to, they'll have to be ready for that. But that's really one of the big changes there. This team hasn't played here at this stadium in 8 years. The only two guys on the team from the Cowboys were Tyron Smith and DeMarcus Lawrence. But back to that 2015 game, which Kellen Moore was the starting quarterback, it felt and looked exactly like this. It rained all day long. Cowboys scored 6 points, so they're probably going to need to score more points today to win that game. But, kicking game could be a factor. I got a chance to walk out with John Fossil with Bones with his three specialists, and I asked him, what's the biggest change here with the weather? What do you got to focus on? Is it catching the ball? Is it planting your foot? And he goes, the biggest change is nothing. Nothing. That's nothing that we're really going to talk about. Yeah, they practice it. They practice wet balls and all that, but they don't really want to talk about it. They don't want to put it in any of their heads about what they need to do to focus. The focus is the same. It's the execution as always. Sure, it's going to be a little bit different out there, but they don't want to put that in their head. And I'm going to imagine that goes with every position across the team. They know it. They feel it. They hear it and see it. They're not really going to talk about it and think about it. So that's the big key here from the Cowboys. Yes, the weather is going to be a factor, but probably not as much as you would think. So we'll see if that holds true throughout the day. Kyle, back to you.
Thank you very much, Nick. That's also great news just from hearing from the staff member saying that there isn't that much of a change overall in what the weather is. It is December football, though, and there's a change possibly in the mentality for NFL teams that are trying to position themselves the best going into the playoffs. With more on how crucial this final month of the regular season is, here's Nick Harris.
Heading into Week 15, the Dallas Cowboys are hitting their stride at the perfect time of the season. They head into their AFC East road swing, riding a 5-game winning streak and fresh off the high of a 20-point victory over the Philadelphia Eagles. Everything is clicking. Offensively, Dak Prescott has vaulted himself into the top of the MVP conversation on his way to powering the league's top-scoring offense. The defense overall has been suffocating with its pass rush, 8th in the NFL with 39 sacks, while also being locked down in coverage with its various all-pro defensive back weapons. And on special teams, is there anything else we could say about Brandon Aubrey? With that winning streak in hand, the Cowboys will head to unfamiliar territories in Buffalo and Miami in the next 2 weeks, with a growing history of success in the month of December under Mike McCarthy. Let's dive into it. Since Mike McCarthy was hired in 2020, the Cowboys are 12-2 in the month of December and are averaging 33.6 points per game during that 14-game stretch. At home, they're a perfect 7-0 with a chance to extend that mark on December 30th against the Lions. But this time around, things feel a little different, don't they? Even though the Cowboys won 3 December games last season, a couple of those wins felt like they did more bad than good. A win over a 1-win Houston team took Dallas every second to accomplish, and a road win at Tennessee against a third-string quarterback generated more concerns than positivity going into the final stretch into the playoffs. This time around, those types of bad wins, quote-unquote, aren't present, and they aren't showing any signs of rearing around. A commanding win against Philadelphia, while it did have its offensive issues in the second half, has the confidence higher than it's been all season in the locker room going into the final 4 games.
We're where we need to be. It's definitely high, and it should be. Is it the highest of the year? Probably so.
And now a challenge against the elements in Buffalo awaits. While it won't be the blizzard tundra-like conditions that we may have anticipated back in May when the schedule was released, potential high winds and rain could still make it a unique road environment from a climate standpoint. It doesn't get any easier after that. A trip to Miami follows on Christmas Eve next week, where the Dallas defense will look to stop the one thing that has been a thorn in the side of the unit all season: speed. A lot of speed. And then to finish the month, Detroit comes into town in the midst of one of the best seasons in franchise history and an offense that can certainly keep pace with the Cowboys' high-octane feel over the last 7 games. Wins in any of these 3 upcoming games are obviously big ones. Wins in all 3, then we're talking about winning the division or potentially the conference. McCarthy has been a part of a lot of meaningful Decembers, but this one just might be his most important. 3 opponents, 3 playoff-type atmospheres. Division and conference titles still very much in play. What awaits? Back to you, Kyle.
Thank you very much, Nick. A little bit of Nick at night, and you can catch up with him all week long on DallasCowboys.com. Back here with Nate Newton, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3-time Super Bowl champ. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Now, whenever you look at this team going into this month, it isn't an easy stretch. We've talked about it ad nauseum over these last few weeks, but here it is. You have an opportunity to win out and put yourself in position to possibly win the division. How important are these next 4 games for the Cowboys moving forward?
Starting with Buffalo tonight is big. I mean, each individual team is going to have its own problems. Right here, their big problem is right now is Josh Allen. That's what they got to concentrate and pay attention to the details, the small things. Cut down on the penalties and no turnovers at all.
The Cowboys are 13-5 in the months of January and December since the start of the 2020 season. How do they keep that going? And what has really been the big success piece for them winning late in the year?
Just the consistency of how our defense has been playing and holding together and getting turnovers, giving our offense a short field.
Yeah.
But now with the emergence of Dak and the way he's moving around, if our offensive line can have any type run game, any type run success, this thing should be okay.
Here's the one kicker for that. 13-5, the Cowboys' number in January and December since 2020. Over that same span, the Buffalo Bills are 15-2. So it doesn't get much easier. Like you said, like Nick Harris just said, this is a tough matchup on the road, and the Cowboys will have to deal without one of their best on the backside of that defense. Malik Hooker is inactive. The starting safety for the Cowboys out with an illness. The reports this morning were talking about multiple players dealing with illness. He's the only one that is missing this game because of it. So Hooker out of the fold. Jonathan Hankins, who injured his ankle last week, it was a high ankle sprain. Hankins possibly able to return in the next 2 to 3 weeks. However, he is out this week. Jerry Jones said earlier in the week as well, talking about how it would be hard-pressed to see Hankins in the fold. But let's start with Malik Hooker. This is a huge loss for the backside of this defense because now not only does it affect that high safety role, it affects who else has to work into that role. Donovan Wilson, Jaron Kearse, and possibly Wanye Thomas. Who do you put back there now?
I'll put my fastest guy.
Okay.
Yeah, the guy that can cover the most field on that deep third so they can get to each one of the hashes easily. If that is Wanye, put him back there. If that is Kearse, put him back there. But I understand this right here. You're going to have to cover these guys. And they got a tight end called Dalton Kincaid. We're going to have to shut this guy down because it's going to be enough just to deal with the Diggs guy.
Yeah, and with Hooker being out with an ankle, it may not just be this week. Of course, he was dealing with the injuries or the illness as well as the injury. But if it is a future thing, do you want to see more run from a guy like Wanye Thomas?
Yes. I mean, he made plays in training camp, and he showed to be a pretty smart guy. That is the thing. You got to know what receiver side to play to. You got to be able to see those quarterback eyes and don't fall for every move. So if he's that guy, put him in there.
Yeah, having him on the backside of that defense has been phenomenal for Dan Quinn. And they've had some ups and downs at the safety position, but there's a domino effect when he's out of the fold. You could say the exact same thing on the interior of the defensive line. Ups and downs here in 2023, but it's a domino effect without Jonathan Hankins. Who do you need to step up this week inside?
Mozzie has to step up. Yeah, I mean, Neville Gallimore, here's the veteran. He needs to step up. I mean, Osa, this is where you come up big. This is where you tell everybody, I have arrived. You've made a lot of splash plays over the last few weeks, but we need for you to be consistent with these splash plays. If Osa steps up, Neville steps up, and Mozzie just get off the rock, baby, we should be okay.
And they also elevated Carl Davis from the practice squad as well, so he can go in and play if he's needed. Do you feel like they have enough there to replace Jonathan Hankins for a short term? in these next couple games?
You know, it ain't about if. They have to.
Okay.
Because these games mean everything. It's a 4-team race. It's the 49ers, Detroit, Philadelphia, and the Cowboys. And Detroit did what they had to do yesterday. So we got to do what we got to do today. And I say we, I mean them, the Dallas Cowboys.
Where's your confidence level in Mazi Smith right now?
It's about a C+. I mean, he'll get 8 plays where he'll smash the man in front of him, he'll get off the rock, then he'll have 4 plays where he's laid off the ball. And when a defensive tackle guy that plays over the center is laid off the ball, his gash and holds up the middle.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I think a lot of Cowboys fans would love to see in the absence of Jonathan Hankins. Is the first-round pick, Mazi Smith, taking a step forward, showing improvement?
Yes.
He's not going to be perfect. I mean, we've seen that. You said C+. I think a lot of people, they would be even lower than that. But I think with Mazi Smith showing improvement, then it would at least push things in the right direction. The Cowboys aren't the only team today dealing without some of their best, both in the front 7 and in the secondary. Both Micah Hyde, the safety for the Buffalo Bills, and A.J. Epineza are out today. Epineza, an edge rusher for that Buffalo defense. How big of an impact can those two missing give to this Cowboys offense?
Micah Hyde is just a guy that you can depend on.
Yeah.
And he to be in the right place, to make plays. He's got 2 interceptions. This guy is nice. I mean, he's an all-world safety. He can play up and he can play back, in a sure tackler. The other guy, A.J. Epineza, he has 6.5 sacks. They have 42 sacks altogether, but he's a pressure from the outside, so that is a big loss for that. Those 2 guys are a big loss for Buffalo.
The Bills are 3rd in the NFL in terms of quarterback pressures this year, 10 quarterback hits for A.J. Epineza this season. Does this make them vulnerable in the secondary? If they can't get home and they can't have those sacks, they've given up the highest completion percentage for downfield throws this season for a defensive unit. Does that make Buffalo vulnerable in the secondary?
It does. It makes them very, very vulnerable. And that's where CeeDee Lamb, Cooks, and the rest of the guys got to come up big. And I tell you what, man, they got a tight end here for the Dallas Cowboys called Jake Ferguson. He can eat today. He can eat big.
I can't wait to talk about Jake Ferguson later in the show. Nate's been chomping at the bit to finally get to talk about Fergie and what he's done this year. Let's talk a little bit more about protecting Dak Prescott. He's been fantastic under pressure, but he's been even better whenever his offensive line has played well. And some of those guys up front have had great seasons due to the numbers. Look at Tyron Smith and Tyler Smith, both ranking tops by their position according to Next Gen Stats in terms of quarterback pressure rate allowed this season. Tyler Smith, the lowest out of any offensive lineman across the board. Then you've got Tyler Biadasz, he's top 5, and then Zach Martin doing Zach Martin things still at the right guard position. How imperative is it for them to protect Dak Prescott whenever they're going up against the defense that has the 42 sacks this year?
This is everything. I mean, these guys have finally played together, 6-7 games from the starting 5 that was in training camp. They're now here. Okay, our right tackle, we can give him a little help, but those other 4 guys are playing perfect football. When you have unity and you're on the same page and you can run off the ball with rhythm or you can pass block with the same protection, knowing where the hots are coming from, that is a great thing. Mike Solari and his group has done a great job.
Whenever the weather is like this and there's a little bit of rain, there's a little bit of cold, how imperative are the trenches to win that battle inside and what's going to be a sloppy, edgy game?
This is how you win this game, is you get foot to foot and you run off that rock. It should be about the running game, setting up the passing game. It should be all about play action pass today. That's why I'm saying Jake Ferguson should come up big as our guy, or either who's playing that slot, CeeDee Lamb. You don't want to be throwing the ball deep down the field because we ain't used to that type of win. But the intermediate routes to short, this should be a perfect day for Dak.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, of course, if you flip it to the opposite side, Dallas defensively is going to try and win the battle in the trenches as well with a guy like Micah Parsons coming off the edge. Highest quarterback pressure rates in the NFL this year. It's Micah Parsons at the top of the list, both for pressure percentage and against the double team. Look at the way that he dominates even against the double team this year. Teams are getting after him, putting all of those guys up front, trying to do the same thing you just said, go foot to foot and win that battle at the line, and he is still getting home. When you look at Micah Parsons today, how big of an impact does he make?
Man, he's hungry. I mean, this dude is the ultimate pass rush. He's a specialist at what he does. He loves doing it. Last week he had a great game, I think, against Lane Johnson, the right tackle for the Eagles. That's one of the better guys in the league. And now they got a guy over there, number 71. I can't call his name. He's an ugly dude. Not ugly for his looks, but he's a dude that can get ugly. They left tackle. and I think it's going to be special. But Micah, listen, don't go over there and waste your time. Go elsewhere where we can have success.
So if you move him around, is this a game where Micah can have some success
yes.
with that O-line?
Oh, yes. Yeah, he can, from the left tackle, exclude him, and then all the way across to the right, dance, fight, crawl with your lion crawl, do whatever you got to do. Micah has to be an impact. When you go on the road, your defense has to carry you. And Micah is the leader of this defense, so he has to be the man.
You are not alone in that belief. Micah Parsons himself also believes that defense travels and can have some success this week against the Bills.
Well, Josh is he's a guy he could go out there and have 0 interceptions and 4 or 5 touchdowns, and he could have a game where he forces things. And, he's just a playmaker. He's just trying to make plays. I'm not the one to penalize it because I know what it looks like when he is making plays. You watch the tape, it's all over. You see why he's this great quarterback. So I know we're the Dallas Cowboys, so I know what type of Josh we're going to get. And I don't think it's going to be the one that makes some costly decisions. I think it's going to be the one that's come to beat on us pretty bad. So I'm excited for the matchup.
I think it's supposed to rain. Maybe 5% chance. We would ask an offense what they normally do from a defense perspective. Does that mean you're going for the ball more because there's more chance to come out?
Yeah, I like the rain. The rain is exciting. Get a little more slippery, a little bit more fun, a little bit more challenging. The rain should increase the intensity of the game. More time to just get after it. And I think that might play into our favor too.
Micah Parsons certainly confident in the defense's ability to play in inclement weather. If you ask some around Cowboys Nation this week, there's a bit of concern on how the Cowboys haven't played outdoors, and I get it. I understand it. This is a December game scheduled in Buffalo. It certainly had the possibility of being a horrible weather game, but this is only the 5th time that the Cowboys have played outdoors all season long, and only the 2nd time they've played in inclement weather. The first one was week 1 on the road in New York. That one ended up in a 40-0 win for the Dallas Cowboys. So they've had some success in inclement weather before. I'm not a meteorologist, but let's give you a weather report. Let's try and work this out, starting with Eastern Standard Time. So that is kickoff at 4:30. This is what it's going to look like as we go along. The temperatures really aren't that bad, 49, 48, 49, 50. That's nothing to worry about, especially December in Buffalo. That could be easily down in the 20s. Maybe even down in the teens if you weren't lucky in terms of setting things up. But then you look at precipitation. That's the number one concern this week. So it's not necessarily the cold that the Cowboys are worried about. It's slick footballs. So how have they prepared as the week has gone along? They've done so by soaking the footballs during practice in ice water. This is a look of what they did throughout the week. This is specifically with the tight ends, with Linda Wells, tight ends coach Jake Ferguson. He's even soaking his hands in the ice water before trying to catch footballs from his tight end coach Wells. So with all this being said, there's detail being placed into these practices preparing for this moment because it does change things from a fundamental standpoint. With more on that, we've got both Barry Church and Isaiah Stanback. We had to change up the clothes a little bit. They're not wearing their suits like they were a moment ago, but they had to get a quick change of clothes. Isaiah, tell me about how this is preparing this Cowboys team for a fundamental change in how the game is played.
Thanks, Kyle. And here we go. I'm sitting over with my boy BC, Mr. Defensive Back, Stacey Extraordinaire himself.
That's what they call me.
That's what they call him, man. But we're talking about the weather out there, obviously, and we're going to try to reference how these quarterbacks are going to have to hold the ball differently in today's elements. So, as a former quarterback, I'm going to show you guys a couple of tips and tricks. Right now, okay, how I traditionally hold the ball, most quarterbacks do, you're going to have a lot of focus on the grip right here, okay, on the fingertips. You guys see it right here. Fingertips, a lot of pressure there. All right, on the backside, there's typically a little bit of air pocket, a little space between the palm of your hand and the ball. That's going to allow for you to be able to drive the ball however you want to, okay? Your typical release point. However, in the elements that we're going to experience today, you know what's going to happen, BC?
What's going to happen, big dog?
You got to take this good here ball. Submerge it just a little bit.
Get that thing soaking.
Get that thing
That's
soaking
how they do it.
wet.
That's how they do it. All right.
And now you can no longer hold it the traditional way. Reason being is the probability of it slipping off of your fingertips is high.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what you have to do in these elements is you have to get that gap that we talked about originally, you have to make that disappear.
Okay.
And you have to take the ball and rotate it inward so that you have a little bit more on top of the ball versus your typical release point, which might be a little bit more opened up. You want to get a little bit more on it so you have a little bit more bite. The probability of it slipping out of your hands dwindles down substantially. That's some of the adjustments that the quarterbacks are going to have to make today. Dak Prescott coming into this game only has 6 interceptions. Obviously, Josh Allen has 14. How will rain and wet balls affect that number today?
I got you. And defensively, this might be the only time that the defense has a slight advantage on the offense when you talk about ball security. We love these type of games.
Yeah.
No glove, fingertips all over the place. But I'm going to show you 3 techniques to try to get that ball out of the quarterback's hand or out of the ball carrier's hands when it's a little wet out there. So normally, no matter what the conditions are, defenders are going to try to get the ball. They're punching, they're ripping and all that stuff. But with that moisture on that football, it gives you a slight advantage of taking that ball out. So the first one we're going to do is a punch with a slight bit of a rip. Now, what do we do here is when you're coming to the offensive ball carrier's hand, you want to punch down on the ball right here, but not just all with your fist. Once you get that initial hit, that's when you want to take those fingers right there and try to rip those fingers off, and that ball with the moisture will slip a little bit, hopefully falling out of the ball carrier's hands. Another opportunity that you may have if you're chasing a guy from behind, because we know the Bills have a lot of speed with their skill set guys out there. So when you're chasing a guy from behind, you're rolling, if you notice a slight gap between that arm and that body right there, you got to take advantage of them. First, secure the tackle. Make sure you secure the tackle, because if you miss that ball, that guy's out of the gate. So you secure the tackle, then you come up where that opening is and get that ball or your hand right on that ball, hopefully popping that thing out. And then last but certainly not least, if you're in a frontal tackle, so the ball carrier is coming towards you, all right, and it's just you and him. You ain't got nowhere else to move. He ain't going to shake nowhere. He's going to try to run through you. A lot of people call this the peanut punch. I like to call it the berry punch because I did it a lot when I was in college and in the National Football League. But you lead with that hand, you punch right down on the football. If that ball carrier is holding it just a little bit loose, that moisture will slip right from that jersey and that ball's coming out. Once that thing's coming out, you got all the guys coming over there to jump on the football. We know the Dallas Cowboys defenders have got to take advantage of these conditions out there against the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, speaking of Dallas Cowboys defenders, our very own Nicole Hutchinson caught up with one today. Thank you very much.
Well, guys, this year looks a lot different than last year for Damone Clark, and I mean that in a good way. He came into his rookie season having to face the unknown, having to undergo a surgery for spinal fusion. But now he's easily become one of the most dominant guys in this Dan Quinn defense, filling in the shoes for Leighton Vander Esch, and I caught up with him this week to talk about his journey and how he's adjusting to his new role. Now that you have Marquise Bell playing alongside of you, you don't have Leighton. How is that, I guess, building the relationship with someone new alongside of you?
I mean, we challenge each other. Like, each game, we both like, I'm finna have more tackles than you. Like, so it's challenge. Like, we challenge each other. You making it fun, because I'm like, dang, I gotta go because Bell. If I don't make it, Bell finna make it. And Bell said the same thing. Like, if I don't go, Bone finna make it. So it's like, it's fun, and we just gel. Watch film together, extra film with Coach DT. Like, we just do stuff like that just to keep challenging each other and making sure that we on the same page with each other.
Yeah, you guys are both second-year guys, and I remember you telling me in the locker room that you guys are still young and y'all understand that, so y'all kind of like piggyback off of each other, whether it's giving advice to each other. How much has that helped you guys within this room?
I mean, like, it helps us because we both thinking the same. Bell is a former safety. He call himself a hybrid. So my bad, hybrid. So he's like, he cover, he stop the run, he do everything. So when it's like pass stuff, he'll give me, feedback. And when it's more run stuff, I give him feedback. And we just, it's nothing, we just helping each other out because at the end of the day, we both going out there on Sunday.
How do you feel mentally and physically compared to around this time last season?
I mean, last year I was raw. I'm just out there really just playing. I'm like, bro, just go. I'm out there trying to survive last year, but just seeing the improvements that I made, even going back to the beginning of the season, like, I wasn't playing at the level that I wanted to play at, and I'm my biggest critic, and I know now each week I just tell myself just 1% better. Yeah. Each week, I block out the noise. I'm just like, bruh, just go out there and do what you're supposed to do. Block out the noise and get better each week. So
what does a successful 2023 season look like for you?
I just be the Damone Clark that I can be. Don't try to be nobody else. Just be me. I don't do like stats and stuff like that. Because I feel like if you like, oh, I gotta have 100+ tackles, this and that. I feel like you just go out there and start playing selfish. Like, for me, you play within the scheme and your plays gonna come to you. And when they come to you, just make them.
Damone Clark has had to step up in a big way this season. He's going to have to step up today against the Buffalo Bills. There's a look at Highmark Stadium up in Orchard Park, New York, where the Cowboys get set, and Brandon Aubrey just knocked through a 54-yard field goal in the elements.
With the wind, too?
That's just in warm-ups. It was against the wind, actually.
Against them? Oh,
yeah,
man.
it was against the wind. So,
little razzle dazzle.
Aubramatic has looked great. He's only kicked in the elements one time, by the way, and that was week 1. So his debut in the NFL, he missed the PAT, but it was okay. He hit everything else. He hasn't missed a field goal yet. So that's how it goes. Welcome back into Cowboys Pregame Live. We've got Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Now, with all of this being said, the elements may be playing a factor. You guys just went through it beautifully. The run game is going to be imperative for both teams, and Buffalo has traditionally had more success in 2023 running the football. They've got really a three-headed monster, the two guys in the backfield, James Cook, who's actually been just as effective as a pass catcher as he has on the ground with 789 receiving yards, Latavius Murray and what he's brought to the table, and then, of course, Josh Allen, who has 10, count them, 10 rushing touchdowns. That's 4th in the league. Ooh. That doesn't mean quarterbacks. That's 4th in the league as a whole this season. So let's start with James Cook. What does he do differently, and how can he hurt this Dallas defense?
Well, this to me, James Cook, he's an explosive back, and he reminds me a lot of Tony Pollard here with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, he has the speed to gas you in the run game, and like you mentioned, Kyle, he's a great receiver out of the backfield. 38 catches so far in the season, which is 4th on his team. So this is kind of a guy that you got to know where he is at all times, because he can hurt you with the run, he can hurt you with the screen game as well. Then you got Murray, you got Allen out there as well, but to me, it's all about Cook, and you got to corral him.
Yeah, talking about Cook's ability to be able to utilize all of the assets are absolutely out of this world. You talk about how he reminds you of Tony Pollard. This dude can hurt you at the backfield. They'll also line him up as a receiver. And when they do line him up as a receiver, guess what? It's not just for old giggles. They're after trying to get him the ball. And he's able to run good routes. He's able to utilize those soft hands. And then if you have a one-on-one matchup with him in a space, that's your world's worst nightmare.
Yeah, as you see there, none of those guys are up under 4 yards of carry. Yeah. I mean, leading with the quarterback with 5.2. These guys are a combination of different guys, all of them tough, but Cooks is the speed guy. Yes. If you don't let this guy break. I saw him drop a wheel route, Church, coming out of that backfield. If he'd have caught it, he'd have been to the house. They are all explosive runners.
And there's also the element of a mobile quarterback too, right? I mean, having the mobility at the quarterback position, we've seen it with Dak in the past. It opens up possibilities for your offense. Teams like the Eagles have done it with Jalen Hurts. You've got, of course, guys like Lamar Jackson having a ton of success with it this year. Where does Josh Allen rank in terms of the mobile quarterbacks throughout the NFL?
Man, with 10 rushing touchdowns, I got to say he's at least top 3. Maybe not even 3. He might be 1 or 2 out there, because when you talk about it, this guy is a load to bring down. He can run, he has power, he can run over you, he can shake you up as well to get past you. To me, what this defense has got to do, and it's easier said than done, but you got to stop him before he crosses that line of scrimmage, because once he crosses that line of scrimmage, this guy becomes like a freight train, and it's hard to bring him down. So you got to keep him in the pocket, and if he's able to go out there and extend plays and move the chains with his legs, or extend plays with his legs to get his wide receivers open, this will be a long afternoon for the Dallas Cowboys defense.
And that's not what they want, simply because of the fact this dude, you talked about the size, 6'5", 245 pounds, but this dude can tote that rock, and he wants the smoke. Come up there and try to hit him if you want to. He's actually going to put his shoulder down and try to run through you like some seaweed water, okay? But the thing is, Josh Allen has a cannon to throw this thing all over the field as well. So you have to make a decision. Do I come up and play him and hit this 245-pound man, or do I go ahead and go back into coverage? Either way, it's a wrong choice. You got to make sure that you have your eyes on the keys in terms of his personnel, Kincaid, Davis, Diggs, those guys as well. And you have to guard him, even if they're backside, because he'll throw that thing 60 yards across his shoulder.
Tell you what, he's number 2 behind Lamar. This guy's for real. He makes things happen. 10 TDs, 5.2 average. He is something special. I don't know about all the seaweed, all that, but he will hurt you.
Yes, he will. He will certainly do that. I would say, based off of what you guys are saying, it sounds like he's the Derrick Henry of mobile quarterbacks. He's one of those guys you get ahead of steam. He's got the physical piece to him. He's able to get into the second level of that defense, and it's hard to bring down.
Well, Kyle,
you probably hated that.
I tackled both of them, Henry and Josh Allen.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you what, Josh Allen's heavier than Derrick Henry. All right, so bring your big boy pads. I'll tell you that much.
That's one thing to keep an eye on whenever you've got that. But he also has weapons on the outside, too. I mean, there are opportunities for him to share the rock with guys all over the field. I mean, you talk about Stephon Diggs and what he's brought, Gabe Davis. They even drafted Dalton Kincaid, and they had a tight end in Dawson Knox already. Out of these weapons, as you take a look at both teams running out of the tunnel out at Highmark Stadium, I mean, these are the guys that you also have to worry about defensively.
Yeah, without a doubt. And to me, it starts and stops with Stephon Diggs. If he's rolling, if he has a wavelength with Josh Allen out there, it becomes extremely hard to stop this offense. But I'll tell you what, the matchup that you want to talk about, that you want to see, has got to be Dalton Kincaid. You see right there, 69 receptions on the year. He's one of those pass-catching tight ends that'll give anybody fits out there. He's a mismatch nightmare for linebackers, safeties, whoever the case may be. And he has those abilities to make all those underneath defenders very stressful.
Yeah, no lies told there, Barry. But the man that everybody forgets about and that you saw on that good old graphic is Mr. Davis. That dude seems to be their possession guy. Whenever a big play is needed and you're focused on Diggs and you're focused on Kincaid and you're focused on Knox, all of a sudden here comes Davis and he's making a big play down the field in the red zone, high pointing the ball, utilizing his size to his advantage.
I just believe in a game like this right here where the wind is blowing, it's going to be wet, and Kincaid is going to have a big day. He's going to make things happen. That's when our safeties have to stay at home and know where this guy's at. Hey, Marquise Bell, get on your horses, baby. He's going to try you.
Barry, I'm interested to hear your take on this. Without Malik Hooker available, who do you need to step up in that secondary against these weapons?
Well, it's not just about speed when you're back there in that whole defender, because Malik Hooker, he's one of the best center fielders in the National Football League. He keeps everything in front of him. He does a great job reading the quarterback. So to me, you got to have great athletic ability out there, but you also have to have that football IQ to understand where the quarterback wants to go with the football, how he's going to try to attack your defense, and where the weaknesses are. You got to be the quarterback back there, and hopefully they have that in one of those other safeties.
Yeah, we talked about that a moment ago. Having him unavailable, it provides a bit of a domino effect. So you may have to move things around, see what works initially, and then go from there. So there's multiple things to talk about there. And then, of course, without Trayvon Diggs in the fold, that would have been such a fun matchup. Yes, Trayvon versus Stephon and the brothers battle. They actually walked into the stadium together today with Aiden Diggs as well. So it was a pretty cool moment to see. Just unfortunately, we were robbed as football fans of having that brother v. brother matchup.
Would they have walked in together if they were actually playing?
I don't think so.
Ooh.
There's no way. Do you think so? Would
no,
you walk
not at all.
in? There's no way.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but it is a really cool moment that they got to share that together. Stephon Diggs has been around the Cowboys organization since Trayvon was drafted back in 2020. So these two very familiar with each other. And this is a matchup that is pretty interesting for Dak Prescott. He's defeated 29 of the 32 teams in the NFL. Of course, the Cowboys are one of those. The Broncos are one. And the Buffalo Bills are one of the three teams that he has not defeated as a quarterback. He's got a chance to do that today. Here's what he said earlier in the week about keeping that MVP caliber play up in Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I think it's just about taking the momentum that we've created from these last few games. Obviously, they've been at home, but understanding that we've created a standard, we have an expectations for ourselves on offense, on defense, on special teams, but really as a whole, just playing together, playing complementary football. And as I said before, feeding off the success and then maybe just being there for when the other side isn't doing what they expect to do. So I really just take this momentum. Obviously, make sure our communication's at its all-time high on offense. Obviously, going into a place with a hectic environment, great atmosphere, great fans out here. Yeah, looking forward to the challenge, but right now it's not about home or away. These are all playoff-type games, as I spoke about before, and so it's important for us just to use this momentum, confidence that we've gathered from the last month and a half, I guess you can say, and make sure we take another step on the road.
Dak walked off the field tonight to cheers of MVP. How do you think he's made his case, and how do you think tonight contributes to it?
Dak, again, just was such a difference maker out there.
Walking the dog, touchdown Prescott. Prescott back to right corner, end zone, caught. Prescott with plenty of time, blocks it, end zone.
Yeah. Dak Prescott trying to keep his MVP hopes alive, but he's got to do so on the road. 3 out of the last 4 games are away from AT&T Stadium, starting with this one in Buffalo. Here are his numbers away from home. That 88.8 passer rating, that is a total difference of nearly 34 percentage points different than what he has done at home, where he has a 1 22.5. So with that being said, how do you want to see Dak play on the road, and where can he have some success in Buffalo?
All I want to see from Dak Prescott is continue to do what you've been doing these past couple games, which means taking care of the football and finding your open receivers. We saw him out there not making too bad of decisions out there, taking care of the football, not forcing it to CeeDee Lamb, spreading the ball around to all his options out there. If you can continue to do that, you should be able to have a great game no matter what the elements are.
Yeah, I want to kind of, obviously double down on that, as well as adding the fact that I hope he utilizes his footwork the way he's been doing so all season. It's going to be very important with this pass rush of the Buffalo Bills and their ability to get back, not only from the exterior, okay, you talk about the Von Millers of the world, you talk about the Leonard Floyds, but you also have the big fella in the middle,
Ed Oliver.
Yeah, Ed Oliver, okay, he has 6.5 sacks as well, so he's going to have pressure from all sides. He has to be able to move in the pocket, find space, and deliver a good rock accurately so that there aren't any tip balls and chances for them to get interceptions.
Thank you, offensive line, for playing together great for the last 5 to 6 games. That is going to be the difference of being from home and away, is the continuity of the offensive line.
Isaiah, whenever you look at such a discrepancy, and it's not like Dak has played poorly on the road. He's still got an 89 passer rating for the most part. So he's still playing decent, but just not as well as he has at home. Is that something to be concerned about moving forward?
There's always something to be concerned about whenever you see such a drastic change in execution from when you're at home versus when you're on the road. It's something that he has to pay attention to, but again, I think it has everything to do with how this team as a whole settles in, especially up front, and the big fellas with Big Nate Newton. Those guys can protect up front, give him the time and be able to stay in his groove, stay in sequence with his receivers. I don't foresee there being any problems, but when they do present problems for him defensively and he has to move his feet around, that's when he starts getting inaccurate, and that's when he starts having these balls get tipped up.
Well, if they take care of what they got to do these next couple of games and hopefully get that home field advantage throughout the playoffs, we won't have to worry about any road games.
Okay, I like that. Well, with that being said, and there's, of course, a push for that home field advantage in the playoffs, but what would a win do for his MVP candidacy as well?
I think it would strengthen it. I mean, you're
significantly, would it be a big jump? Because that might be the one knock against Dak's resume this year for an MVP award.
I think it would improve it a little bit. I'm not saying it would be a humongous jump, but we all know Buffalo Bills, they are a significant defense out there. They're a very talented defense out there. So if he's able to go out there and get the job done against this team, I say he would get a slight bump in the MVP voting.
Yeah, I see the bump. A bump is necessary if he gets his victory. The thing is, he's already at the top of the conversation. So you don't need a doggone leapfrogger or triple jumper like my boy at BC used to do.
You already know.
Okay, we got to be able to just have a little bit of a step forward, and a victory will put you in that position.
Let me tell y'all something. If they win by 10 points and Dak don't turn it over, the bump is significant. You got to remember, these are the boys.
That's true. And they've been rolling in the right direction. It'd be 6 straight wins. You'd add another road win. There'd be a lot on the table for Dak. Now, we talked about the weapons helping Josh Allen. How much has CeeDee Lamb helped open things up offensively for this Cowboys team?
Oh, I mean, he helped it open up unbelievably. When you talk about this guy getting double team, triple team, opening things up for a Brandon Cooks, a Gallup, Tony Pollard, who we seen get a couple receptions the other game. He opens up things for everybody out there offensively, and not only that, he's doing it himself as well. When you get double team and triple team and you're still able to go out there for over 100 yards, you officially become that guy, and that's who CeeDee Lamb is now.
He is that guy, and what happens when you face the Dallas Cowboys and they have a CeeDee Lamb, you have to go too high safety. That means you have to go too high shell, roll coverage over the top, and whenever you have a too high shell, rolling safe coverage over the top of one particular receiver, there's a dude in the middle, but I know that my boy Nate Dogg is going to talk about. His name is Big Ferguson, and those tight ends start having matchups on linebackers, and that's why you're starting to see the succession of Mr. Ferguson.
I'll tell you what, Fergie is something special, man. He run those seams, he catch the ball. He's dynamite. We saw him earlier, you know, catching them wet balls. It don't matter. Just throw him the ball. But I tell you this right here. What's special about CeeDee Lamb is finally we got a player that can dictate coverage. And when you got a guy like CeeDee Lamb that can dictate coverage, that is very important.
Well, let's talk about Jake Ferguson. We're seeing some images of him in practice. He started to take what we've seen in practice, training camp earlier in the season, and implement that into this offense. He's second in most major categories for this Cowboys offense. I know you've been chomping at the bit, Nate, to talk about Fergie. What has he impressed you the most, or how has he impressed you the most?
Well, the day they drafted him, I was excited, but somebody to my left here tried to take away that excitement.
Who was
and I
it?
did not. That's
Who
how
was
I said,
it?
and I did not let that happen. Fergie has been the man. I tell you what, after the Philadelphia loss the first time, he sent a little something to his boy. Maybe it was the game before. He sent a little boy something to Dak and said, I am your man. You will find me anytime you need me. And ever since then, this boy been lighting folks up, been running over folks, blocking everybody out there, doing what he has to do. Fergie, keep doing your thing, baby. I got you in the Pro Bowl. It's flag football, but it's all I'm saying.
Try and work it out. Is this true? Were you a Jake Ferguson doubter?
Listen here, I know when they brought in Jake Ferguson, they brought him in to run block. And I saw the man's size, and I said, guess what? Your boy Zay is about the same size as Fergie. I didn't have the faith that he could put his hand in the ground and move guys off the ball.
Nah, not at all. That dude's making one-handed grabs in the Senior Bowl.
Explosive.
Yeah.
Hey, let's not talk about the past. The boy's taking care of business right now. You converted me there, Fergie.
No, he's become that security blanket. He really has become that security blanket, and I thought we would miss a guy by the name of Dalton Schultz a lot more than we have. But Jake Ferguson, it becomes extremely hard when you're a safety out there and you got to go against a guy that can pass catch like that. It throws everything off, and he's really become that mismatch nightmare for the Dallas Cowboys offense.
One thing that's really impressed me with Jake Ferguson is his willingness to be physical. That's not a teachable thing. No. A lot of times with these tight ends, you're born with the physicality. You either have it or you don't.
Got that dog.
And he has a little bit of that in him, if not a lot of it in him. Linda Wells has helped push that out of him, but based off of that conversion, like you said, Isaiah, is that a part of his game that he's taken that next step in?
He has a little something to him. You know what I'm saying? He got a little swag to him right now, and that's something that you only get by gaining more confidence, right? He's going out there and doing, he got that dog. And, you know what I'm saying? You hear Nate over here growling. But the thing is, you talk about the willingness to be able to go out there and be physical. That's something that everybody possesses, but it's a decision. You either have the light on or you have the light off. And right now, that thing is all the way on. And Linda Wells, the tight ends coach for the Dallas Cowboys, is ensuring that it's not a clap on and clap off. That thing is simply just on at all times.
So let me ask you this question. From the ground perspective, the ground game, is that light on or off for the Dallas Cowboys offense right now?
I think that thing is on a dimmer right now, and I need them to turn that thing all the way up. Big Nate, what you think?
I agree with you 100%. You got to do it, especially in this tight weather. Yes, you do.
Get the ball to Tony Pollard. I've been saying it from the jump. Give the ball to Tony Pollard, and we'll get this thing done.
So is that the key for this offense? Is this the opportunity for them to really take a step forward? We've been waiting on it now. We've been waiting on this run game. Yeah. Malik Davis is here. Rico Dowdle is here. Tony Pollard's here. Is this finally the time where they can have that success?
I believe so. This is the opportunity for Tony Pollard to kind of take this game over. Like Big Nate has been saying, this offensive line has been playing amazingly together. They're like a unit that are gelled all together, and Tony Pollard's following right behind them. This is the game I feel like Tony Pollard cracks the century mark once again and gets the job done.
I hope so, Kyle.
Yeah?
I hope. I don't know. I want them to continue to give him the rock 20 times a game, right? 20 touches. Not like early in the season when he's getting 12 touches. But I would like to think that this is the game that he goes off. But everybody knows when the elements are bad, a lot of times they're going to start crowding that box.
That's true.
So that's what scares me a little bit about these guys. And this is the most athletic defensive front that the Dallas Cowboys have faced all season long. They're used to moving these big boys on the line and double teaming. These guys are going to be stunning and running all over the place. That presents a challenge as well when you have big boy offensive linemen.
When you go on the road, you got to prove who you are. You got to try to get an identity. Let Tony Pollard be that identity. I'm with you. He needs to touch the ball at least 25 times a day.
Wow.
Let him decide when he wants to come off the field.
How much is that? How much of those 25 is early in the game?
Oh, as much as often. If he can get maybe 15 carries in the first half, that would be great.
There it is.
That'd be big.
That'd be big time.
And if Tony Pollard can continue building, they've kept him fresh too. That's the other part about it. He's healthy. He's lacking injury. If they can keep him fresh going into the playoffs, that's another weapon that they can keep at their disposal. And if he has some confidence, too, that will go a long way for this Cowboys offense. With that being said, we've hit a lot of the storylines. We've got to check in with the Cowboys front office. Nick Eatman is down in the tunnel at Hyde Park Stadium and have a chance to catch up with Cowboys COO Stephen Jones.
Thanks, Kyle. And yes, we're here with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer, inside the tunnel here, trying to protect ourselves a little bit from a rain. But, you know, when you saw the schedule come out mid-December in Buffalo to say it's in the 40s and rain, you'll take this, don't you?
I think we'll take it. Sometimes you might take a little snow and 30 rather than wet and 40. But, no, this is typical Buffalo weather. You knew you were going to, probably have something to contend with when you looked at the schedule. And, of course, it's a great home field advantage for them, and we're playing a team today that is a really good football team that's certainly not unlike us. They really need this game to get to where they want to get.
You always talk about this time of year. You are what you are, with your record schedule. Them at 7-6, they do seem a little bit better than that, just especially the way they played the last couple of weeks.
Well, I think it's like anything. You got to protect the ball, and they had some, I think, issues early turning the ball over, and lost some close games. But at the end of the day, this is a really good football team. They play well here at home, and they got a great quarterback in Josh Allen, and as I said, they really need this game to stay in the hunt for the playoffs.
You obviously played football as well, high school, college level. When it gets to weather like this, how do you manage it's there, but you also need to block it out mentally and not even worry about it?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is you just got to go out there and play. I mean, that's we all grew up playing in the, out in the yard in it and having fun with it. But, the biggest thing is the ball. You got to protect the ball, and we've done a good job of that all year. Hopefully we can go get the ball on the defensive side. This certainly adds to the complexity of these turnovers when you have weather like this today. But obviously it's probably going to be a key part of this game is, who can protect the ball the best. And then, of course, you just got to go out and the quarterbacks have to block it out of their mind, as you say, and, just throw the play, pitch and catch and throw it. No one even know it's wet. Now, I think Mike and the staff did a good job of doing some wet ball drills, quite a few of them this week, so we'll be prepared.
And your running game obviously needs to be a factor. It seems like you're running the ball a lot better here the last few weeks. Your offensive line playing better. This could be one of those games where you need to lean on the running game.
Absolutely. I mean, our guys, the continuity of the offensive line, I think, has really been a part of going hand in hand with us improving running the football. So, when it's wet like this and you are trying to protect the ball, certainly having a good running game can help, and we do feel like we've improved on that. And like I said, the continuity of the offensive line playing together, feel good about that.
All right, sounds good. Feel good about it. That's Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. Kyle, we'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick and Stephen. By the way, in the process of that interview, the Dallas Cowboys have officially clinched a playoff spot in 2023. The Falcons have lost, the Packers have lost, and then the Lions beat the Broncos yesterday. So with that scenario, the Cowboys are in the postseason, of course, for their third straight year. Congratulations to the Cowboys, but we all know that that is not the ultimate goal. They want to position themselves better, and a big win today against Buffalo would go a long way into keeping that chase happy for that number 1 seed or number 2 seed, wherever you can end up as a divisional champion in the NFC East. Back here with Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton. I'm Kyle Yeomans. Gentlemen, it's time to give your keys to the game. How do the Cowboys keep that chase alive and get a win against the Bills?
Defensively, forced 2 takeaways out there. You threw the stat up there earlier. I don't know what it was, but his record wasn't amazing when he has 2 turnovers out there. Dallas Cowboys take advantage of this, man.
8-9 was the record.
Oh, yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need.
That's exactly what you need. I'm going to go ahead and say Dak Prescott and Dallas Cowboys, you can't afford any turnovers today. That means keep the streak going. No turnovers on the road today. Gives you a W. Be like Jameis Winston.
On the road. On the road. Defense. Run game. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, he done threw me off. He got me laughing. I can't I'm sorry.
We've got plenty of post-game coverage coming your way following the final whistle. Cowboys, Buffalo. You got to keep your head on a swivel, though. You got to catch. Oh! I got picked off by Barry Church. I feel like that's a good thing.
Oh, that was shame.
Get that out of here. Cowboys, Bills, 3:25 kickoff on Fox. We've got Cowboys OT, Cowboys game night, and the first word presented by Dr. Pepper coming your way following the final whistle. For Barry Church, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, Nicole Hutchison, Nick Eatman, I'm Kyle Yeoman saying so long. Enjoy the game, everybody. We'll see you afterwards on DallasCowboys.com.